Hello, people. Good day once again. This is your man, the relationship surgeon. Last time I did stuff on relationship, talking about the body parts of your relationship. Today I'm going to do a recap of that topic and then take it a step further to how we come about the 4 body parts of your relationship. Once again, listen and be blessed. First of all, I told us that relationship has 4 body parts. Body part number 1, the communication. Body part number 2, the loving. Body part number 3, the living. And body part number 4, the sex. Keep in mind that this order has to be followed or else it is error. Because when you follow this order religiously, you will agree with me that without the living there cannot be the sex. You should have married the individual before the sex will come in. That's the meaning of the living before the sex. I take it again. The communication, which is number 1. Number 2, the loving, which is everything that goes down, before you ask, will you marry me? All those things put together, they are known as the loving. And then the living, now you have married her or you have married him. The two of you have started living together. And then finally the sex. These are the 4 body parts of your relationship. There was something I omitted in the last video, which is the living has an aberration called infidelity. Infidelity is not the expected, but an aberration. That's why it's called an aberration. It shouldn't be part of the living, but we are already hearing that is happening. People are cheating. People are being unfaithful in their marriage. So infidelity is a part and parcel of the living, but an aberration. Having said that, I want to talk about how we come about these 4 body parts in today's video. Body part number 1, which is the communication. It is number 1 because you can't start anything called relationship without communication. It makes no difference whether you chatted her online. It makes no difference whether you were WhatsApping her, you never saw her online, or Facebook. I don't know what method you used. Or probably you saw her in a club or in a wedding. Or maybe somewhere you went to do some job. Maybe she's your colleague at work. Maybe he's even your boss. Bottom line is, there can be no relationship without communication. In other words, communication is the driver of every given relationship. It is the driver. And so, we can't talk about relationship without talking about communication. That's why communication is number 1. You get that? Number 1, communication. It doesn't matter how you meet the lady or how you met the man. The truth of the matter is communication started the relationship. Then 2, the loving. Now, taking for granted that communication has gone and now the two of you are beginning to say, I love you, you love me. Now, everything that has to do with emotions, affection, love, lust, the theatrics of love and lust, all this rolled together make up the loving. The loving could be bitter in the morning and turn sweet in the evening. It could also be bitter in the evening and turn sweet in the morning. But whatever goes on, the loving is all about emotions, affections, and how you people watch out for each other's interest. That's how we come about the loving. And then the 3rd one is the living. The living means now relationship has begun, and now you have proposed her and she has accepted your proposal, and the two of you have wedded, crowd has gathered, and everybody has ate and drank, and hooray, you are now married. Now that you are married, we talk about the living. The living is all that goes down, ideological differences, personality differences, character differences, everything you can call it, that happens during the time man and wife is staying together. All of them rolled into one is known as the living. You get that? Everything, ideological differences, character differences, you name it. You may be saying this, your wife is saying this, all of them put together is the living. And I tell you this, there are things you may not have known during the loving that will show up in the living. That's actually the truth about marriage. Some things that you never knew, or unless you are very inquisitive. That's why during the loving, it is good to sit down and discuss. During the loving, it is very important to sit down and talk about your individual differences, if that's what you call it. I call it personal preferences, but some people call it individual differences, while I call it personal preferences. It's okay to sit down during the loving and discuss your personal preferences so you don't clash during the living. Okay? So now, in the living, you start to see the way you are really, the real you and the real her, or the real him. After the living, finally, you have the sex. The sex is almost 80% of why we get married, and so it shouldn't be taken for granted. The sex is the nature of man. God made it that way, and we cannot pretend about the sex. And I tell you, the sex has to be good for the marriage to also be happy. The sex has to be good. But today is not the topic on what makes sex good, or salacious, or exhilarating, or invigorating, whatever. Today is not that topic, but in the coming days I will do a video on what makes a good sex. So on that note, I introduced the aberration, which is an aberration of the living called infidelity. Now, without the sex, we can't even talk about infidelity. Infidelity is as a result of either of the partners straying away from the marriage, either of the partners moving and seeing another person, a third partner, a third party in the marriage is called infidelity. So long as there is sexual involvement outside of the confines of your marriage, that's infidelity. On that note, I know today I end today's video. Hook up next time when I shall be discussing each of these body parts and the implication in your daily interactions in your relationship. Thank you once again, and God bless.